I stood in my sister Mallory's marble-floored kitchen, clutching a glass of wine I hadn't sipped, listening to her laugh about me to our mother. Can you believe Iris is still teaching? All that potential wasted on finger paintings and multiplication tables. I'm Iris, the family disappointment. At least, that's how they see me. While my sister hosts dinner parties in her mansion and posts photos from private jets, I spend my days teaching fourth graders how to divide fractions and believe in themselves. Darling, did you see the Porsche I bought Malcolm for his birthday? Mallory's voice carried across the kitchen island. He barely drives it, but it looks amazing in the driveway. Mom beamed at her. You two really know how to live. If only your sister would... I can hear you both, I said, finally speaking up. I'm literally standing right here. Mallory waved her hand dismissively. Oh, honey, we're just concerned. You could be making 6 figures at Dad's company, but instead you're what? Making macaroni art. Actually, we're coding simple games in class now, I replied, but they had already moved on to discussing Mallory's upcoming trip to Monaco. My phone buzzed. A text from Grace, my fellow teacher and closest friend. How's the family torture session going? Kill me now, I typed back. The usual wealth shaming? Remember why you do this, Grace replied. You're changing lives, not just bank accounts. I smiled, thinking of Jamie, one of my students who went from hating math to lighting up when solving problems using our classroom's new programming exercises. That's worth more than any Porsche. Iris, dear, Mum called out, come look at Mallory's new tennis bracelet. 15 carats of diamonds. Malcolm really knows how to treat her right. I walked over, admiring the way the stones caught the light. Beautiful, I said quietly. You could have nice things too, Mum said, touching my arm. Your father would still welcome you at the company. It's not too late to make something of yourself. I've made something of myself, I replied, but my voice was drowned out by the arrival of Dad and Malcolm, returning from their cigar break on the terrace. There's my girls, Dad boomed, kissing Mallory's cheek first, then Mum's. He gave me a brief nod. Iris, how's the teaching going? Still enjoying it? Before I could answer, Mallory jumped in. Daddy, tell Iris about that junior executive position that just opened up. She'd be perfect for it. Well, Dad cleared his throat, the salary starts at $120,000 plus bonuses, much better than... He trailed off, glancing at me apologetically. I took a deep breath. I appreciate the offer, but I love what I do. My students... Your students can't pay for retirement, Mum interjected, or designer clothes, or vacations, or dignity, apparently, I muttered, earning a sharp look from everyone except Malcolm, who was absorbed in his phone. The evening continued like this, a parade of subtle jabs wrapped in concern, of achievements I should envy, of paths I should have taken. But they didn't know about the late nights I spent coding, about the educational software I'd been developing for the past 2 years. They didn't know about the meetings with investors, or the way my students' test scores had skyrocketed since implementing my program. As I helped clear the dishes, Mallory cornered me by the sink. Look, I know you think I'm being harsh, but I just want what's best for you. Don't you want to be successful? I placed a crystal wine glass in the dishwasher, careful not to chip it. Success means different things to different people, Mal. She laughed, the sound tinkling like her diamond bracelet. Keep telling yourself that, sweetie. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Damon, my coding partner. Big news, call me ASAP. I should go, I said, gathering my things. Early day tomorrow. Of course, Mallory smirked. Those macaroni masterpieces won't make themselves. As I drove home in my reliable Honda Civic, I thought about success, about wealth, about what really matters. My sister's mansion disappeared in my rearview mirror, but I couldn't shake the conversation from my mind. What they didn't know was that tomorrow, while they were counting carrots and comparing country club memberships, I would be meeting with the biggest educational software company in the country. What they didn't know was that my little teaching project had caught the attention of people who saw its true value. What they didn't know was that everything was about to change. I smiled as I pulled into my modest apartment complex. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving it cold, it's serving it with a side of poetic justice. "Have you lost your mind?" Damon's voice crackled through my phone speaker as I prepared my classroom the next morning. "Fred Wilkinson wants to meet us." The Fred Wilkinson, the guy who turned 3 educational startups into billion-dollar companies. I adjusted a student's desk while balancing my phone. "I know who he is, Damon. I'm the one who sent him our prototype, remember?" "But why didn't you tell me you were reaching out to investors?" "Because I didn't think anything would come of it," I admitted, writing the day's agenda on the whiteboard. "I sent it to 5 companies. He's the only one who responded." "The only one who matters," Damon corrected. "When's the meeting?" "This afternoon, after classes." I heard footsteps in the hallway. "Listen, my students are coming. We'll talk during lunch." Grace poked her head in just as I hung up. "You look different today," she said, studying my face. "Something happened at the family dinner?" "Not exactly." I told her about Fred's email while setting up the laptops for our morning coding session. "But please keep it quiet. The last thing I need is for this to get back to my family before anything's concrete." "My lips are sealed," Grace promised. "But Iris, this is huge. Your program could help so many kids." The first bell rang and my students began filing in. Jamie, my brightest programmer, immediately headed for his usual laptop. "Miss Iris, can I show you what I added to my game?" "In a minute, Jamie. Let's get everyone settled first." As I watched my students work, I couldn't help but smile. What had started as a simple idea, teaching coding through interactive storytelling, had evolved into something much bigger. The software adapted to each student's learning style, turning mathematical concepts into engaging puzzles and games. During lunch, Damon and I met in my classroom, spreading out our notes across my desk. "We need to be prepared," he said, running a hand through his dishevelled hair. "Wilkinson's going to want to know about scalability, market potential, implementation costs." "And I want to know if he understands what we're trying to achieve," I interrupted. "This isn't just about making money, Damon. It's about making education better." He smiled. "That's why we work so well together. You keep us focused on what matters." The afternoon crawled by. When the final bell rang, I changed into the one designer blazer I owned, a birthday gift from Mallory that she probably thought I never wore. "You've got this," Grace said, giving me a quick hug before I left. "Remember, you're the expert here. You know what these kids need." Fred Wilkinson wasn't what I expected. Instead of a suit-wearing executive, he showed up in jeans and a casual button-down shirt. He spent the first 20 minutes asking about my teaching experience and watching recordings of students using the software. "Show me how it works," he said, sitting down at one of the student laptops. I guided him through the program, explaining how it adjusted difficulty based on user responses, how it incorporated storytelling elements to maintain engagement, and how it provided real-time feedback to teachers. "And you developed this while teaching full-time?" he asked, clearly impressed. "Nights, weekends, summers," I nodded. Damon helped with the back-end programming, but the educational framework came from daily classroom experience. "That's what makes it special," Damon added. "It's not just theoretically sound, it's been tested and refined in an actual classroom." Fred leaned back in the small chair, looking oddly comfortable in the elementary school setting. "I'll be direct. I've seen dozens of educational software pitches this year. Most of them are from tech people who think they know what teachers need. This is the first one I've seen that actually understands how kids learn." My heart raced. "So you're interested?" Very. He pulled out his tablet. I'd like to make you an offer, but first, I want to know your vision. If we scale this up, what do you see happening? I thought about Jamie, about all my students who'd discovered they could do more than they thought possible. I want every kid to have that moment when they realise they're capable of amazing things. I want teachers to have tools that actually help them teach, not just generate test scores. I want to change how we think about education. Fred nodded slowly, a smile spreading across his face. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. He turned his tablet toward us, showing a number that made my eyes widen. Let's make it happen. As we left the school that evening, Damon grabbed my shoulders. Do you realise what just happened? We're going to be rich. But I was thinking about something else. About Mallory's smirk, about my mother's dismissive comments, about my father's disappointment, about how none of that mattered anymore. No, I corrected him, we're going to make a difference. The money is just a bonus. My phone buzzed. Another family dinner invitation for the weekend. This time, I thought, things would be different. The familiar scent of Mum's roast beef filled the dining room as I took my usual seat at the far end of the table. Mallory was already holding court, regaling everyone with stories from her recent Monaco trip. The yacht was absolutely divine, she gushed, gesturing with her wine glass. Malcolm's business partner let us use it for the whole week. Speaking of business, Dad said, cutting into his meat, how's that junior executive position looking, Iris? Still open if you want it? I pushed my peas around the plate. Actually, I've been pretty busy with a work project. Mallory snorted. What, the school bake sale? No, I said quietly. Something else. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text from Fred. Final paperwork ready for review. Meeting tomorrow at 9. Phone's at the dinner table? Mum clicked her tongue. Really, Iris, you should know better. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, fighting to keep my expression neutral. The contract we'd been negotiating was worth more than this house and everything in it. But they didn't need to know that. Not yet. Malcolm just closed another huge deal, Mallory announced. Tell them, honey. Malcolm looked up from his phone briefly. Oh yeah, pretty big. 7 figures. That's wonderful, Mum beamed. You two are so successful. Iris, dear, aren't you inspired by your sister's lifestyle? I took a sip of water. I'm happy with my choices. Happy? Mallory laughed. Living in that tiny apartment, driving that old Honda. Come on, sis, you can't be serious. Not everyone measures success the same way, Mal. No, but everyone measures failure the same way, she shot back. The table fell silent. Dad cleared his throat uncomfortably. Mallory, Mum chided softly, but her heart wasn't in it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Damon. Stock options looking amazing. You seeing these numbers? Another message. Mum frowned. Is everything all right at school? Everything's fine, I said. Better than fine, actually. Oh? Mallory leaned forward. Did they finally give you a raise? Maybe now you can afford a new car. I gripped my fork tighter. I like my car. Well, I just got a new Mercedes, Mallory continued. The interior is all custom leather. Malcolm surprised me with it last week. That's lovely, dear, Mum cooed. Iris, you should let Malcolm's dealer know if you ever want to look at something more suitable for a professional. I'm good, thanks. I cut my meat carefully, precisely, channeling my frustration into the motion. You know, Dad said, your sister started at the bottom too. But she worked hard, made the right connections, married the right person, Mallory added with a wink. And now look at her, Dad finished. You could have the same thing. My phone buzzed a third time. Fred again. Press release drafted. Review ASAP. Seriously, what is so important? Mallory reached across the table, trying to peek at my phone. Hot date? I pulled back. Work stuff. School work? At this hour? Mum shook her head. This is exactly what we're talking about, dear. You're killing yourself for nothing. The words hit harder than usual, maybe because I knew how wrong they were. I thought about the contract waiting for my signature, about the changes it would bring, about the students who would benefit. You know what? I stood up suddenly. I need to go. But we haven't had dessert, Mum protested. I made your favourite apple pie. Rain check, I said, gathering my things. I have an early meeting tomorrow. Mallory rolled her eyes. Ooh, a meeting. How important? Parent-teacher conference? Something like that. I forced a smile. Thanks for dinner, Mom. As I reached the door, Dad called out. That position won't stay open forever, Iris. I turned back one last time. That's okay, Dad. I don't need it. Driving home, I finally let myself check the messages properly. The numbers in Damon's text made me dizzy. Fred's press release was perfect, highlighting the educational impact first, the financial details second. My phone rang. It was Grace. How was dinner? She asked. Same as always. They think I'm throwing my life away. Little do they know, she laughed. When are you going to tell them? I pulled into my apartment complex, looking up at my modest home. Soon I could afford any place I wanted, but that wasn't the point. After everything's finalised, I said, the paperwork gets signed tomorrow. And then? I smiled, thinking about Mallory's condescending smirk, about Mum's dismissive comments, about Dad's disappointment. And then, I said, we change some lives. Starting with my own. 8 figures, Damon whispered, staring at the contract on Fred's conference room table. I mean, I knew it would be big, but this is life-changing. Fred smiled, sliding his Mont Blanc pen across the polished surface. And that's just the initial payment. Wait until you see the royalty structure. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for the pen. One signature and everything would change. I thought about my students, about all the other students who could benefit from our program. Before you sign, Fred said, I want to make sure you understand what happens next. This goes public tomorrow. Are you ready for that? I nodded, thinking about my family's reaction. More than ready. The press will want interviews. Your story, a teacher creating revolutionary educational software, it's going to make headlines. Speaking of headlines, Damon cut in, have you told your family yet? No. I signed my name with a flourish, but they'll find out soon enough. Fred gathered the papers, handing us each our copies. Congratulations! You're now officially millionaires. Walking out of the building, Damon couldn't contain his excitement. We should celebrate. Dinner, drinks, buy a small island. I have to get back to school, I laughed. My students are presenting their projects today. Iris, you're rich now, like really rich. You don't have to. I want to, I interrupted. These kids are why we did this in the first place. Back in my classroom, Jamie was first to present his project. He'd created a game that taught multiplication through space exploration. Each correct answer moved the rocket closer to its destination. Miss Iris, he beamed, I added sound effects. My phone buzzed. A text from Mallory. Turn on channel 7 now. Then another. Is this for real? And another. OMG, call me. I glanced at the classroom TV, usually used for educational videos. With a knot in my stomach, I turned it on. Revolutionary educational software developed by a local teacher, the news anchor was saying. The program, which has shown remarkable results in improving student performance, was just acquired for an undisclosed sum in the 8-figure range. My students stopped what they were doing, staring at the screen where my professional headshot now appeared. Ms. Iris, Jamie gasped, that's you. Is this about our coding class? Another student asked. Are you famous now? Are you rich? Grace appeared in the doorway, grinning. So much for keeping it quiet. My phone was exploding with notifications, messages from college friends, former colleagues, and most persistently, my family. Mum, what is this we're seeing on the news? Dad, call immediately. Mallory, seriously, what is happening? Class, I said, turning off the TV, let's focus on your presentations. This isn't about me, it's about what you've created. But the excitement was contagious. Even Grace's students were peeking in through the windows. After school, Damon rushed into my classroom. Have you seen Twitter? We're trending. I've been avoiding looking at anything, I admitted. How bad is it? Bad? It's amazing. Teachers are calling you an inspiration. Tech blogs are analysing our software. And, he paused dramatically, 3 other major companies have already reached out about partnerships. My phone rang again. Mallory, for the 10th time. You should probably answer eventually, Grace said gently. I will, just not yet. I sat at my desk, looking around my classroom. Everything's going to change now, isn't it? Only the things you want to change, Damon said. You're still you, just with a much bigger platform to make a difference. My phone buzzed with a text from Fred. Major Education Conference wants you as keynote speaker. Interest from school districts nationwide. This is bigger than we thought. Iris, Grace said softly, your family's here. I looked up to see Mallory, Mum, and Dad standing in my classroom doorway. Mallory clutched her phone. Mum looked shell-shocked, and Dad was holding a newspaper with my story on the front page. 8 figures? Mallory blurted out. From teaching? From innovation, Damon corrected, stepping protectively closer to my desk. Why didn't you tell us? Mum asked, her voice small. I stood up, gathering my courage. Would you have believed me if I had? The silence that followed was deafening. I should go, Damon said. Early meeting tomorrow with the development team. He squeezed my shoulder as he left. Dad stepped forward, newspaper rustling in his hands. Iris, Not here, I said firmly. Not in my classroom. Come over for dinner tomorrow. I'll explain everything then. They looked ready to argue, but something in my voice must have stopped them. Maybe it was the confidence that came with knowing I'd succeeded on my own terms. Tomorrow, then, Dad nodded. As they left, Mallory lingered in the doorway. Sister, she said, shaking her head, you've been holding out on us. No, I replied, you just never bothered to look. Fred arrived at my classroom during lunch break, just as my students were filing out. He paused to watch Jamie explaining his space multiplication game to a younger student. This is exactly why I invested, Fred said, smiling. Real results, real engagement. I gathered my things, preparing for our meeting. The kids are amazing when you give them the right tools. Speaking of tools, he pulled out his tablet. We need to discuss the rollout. 20 school districts want to implement the program next semester. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mallory. Saw you on Good Morning America. Since when do you do TV? Your sister seems persistent, Fred noted, glancing at my phone. Family taking the news well? They're coming for dinner tonight. We'll see. We walked to the teacher's lounge, where Damon was already setting up his laptop. Grace had helped us clear the space, making it look less like a break room and more like a meeting area. The development team's ready, Damon announced. We can start training teachers next month. Fred nodded approvingly. Good, because this just came in. He showed us his tablet. The governor wants to make our program part of the state's educational initiative. The whole state? I sat down, stunned. Every public school, full funding. Fred's eyes sparkled. This is bigger than we imagined, Iris. You're not just a millionaire anymore. You're about to become a major force in education reform. My phone buzzed again. Mum this time. Darling, what should we bring tonight? Malcolm's offering to bring champagne from his private collection. Your family dinner's going to be interesting, Damon smirked. Focus, I said. Let's talk about the training program. We spent the next hour discussing implementation plans, teacher support systems, and expansion strategies. Fred's experience showed in every suggestion, every potential pitfall he helped us avoid. "One more thing," Fred said as we wrapped up. "The Today Show wants an interview. Their education segment." "National TV?" Damon whistled. "That's major exposure." "It's not about exposure," I insisted. "It's about reaching more students, more teachers." "That's why you're perfect for this," Fred said. "You never lost sight of the mission." After they left, Grace came in with coffee. "Ready for tonight?" "Not even close." I showed her my phone, dozens of missed calls and messages from family members I hadn't heard from in years. "Second cousins coming out of the woodwork," she laughed. "Everyone wants to know how the poor teacher struck it rich." I sighed. They still don't get it. "So make them understand." Grace squeezed my hand. "Show them what real success looks like." The rest of the school day passed in a blur of excited students and congratulatory colleagues. As I was packing up, Jamie appeared at my desk. "Ms. Iris, are you going to leave us now that you're rich?" My heart melted. "No, Jamie, I'm staying right here. We're just going to help more kids learn the way you do." "Promise?" "Promise." Driving home, I thought about that promise. My apartment might be modest, but it was about to host the most awkward family dinner in history. I'd ordered catering, nothing fancy, just good food, and set up my small dining room as best I could. The doorbell rang at exactly 6. Mum, Dad, Mallory and Malcolm stood there, looking oddly uncertain. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. "This is cosy," Mallory commented, looking around my apartment. "It's home," I replied simply. Malcolm immediately checked his phone, but the others sat down, eyeing me expectantly. "So?" Dad cleared his throat. 8 figures? "The software is being implemented statewide," I explained. "It's already improved test scores by 40% in pilot programs." "But how?" Mum burst out. "You're a teacher." "Exactly." I pulled out my laptop. "Let me show you." I demonstrated the program, showing them how it adapted to each student's needs, how it made learning interactive and engaging. To my surprise, they actually paid attention. "This is incredible," Dad muttered. "And you developed this while teaching?" "With Damon's help, yes." "And now the governor wants it?" Mallory leaned forward. "Like, the actual governor?" "Every public school in the state," I confirmed. "But that's just the start." "Start?" Malcolm looked up from his phone. "There's more." I told them about the national rollout plans, the Today Show interview, the education conference keynote. With each revelation, their expression shifted from shock to something else. Respect, maybe, or understanding. "Why didn't you tell us?" Mum asked again, softer this time. I met her eyes. "Would you have supported me, or would you have told me to take that junior executive position instead?" The silence that followed was answer enough. "Well," Mallory said finally, "I guess I can't tease you about being just a teacher anymore." "No," I agreed, "you can't." But looking at their faces, I realized something. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about showing them, and the world, that success isn't measured in carrots or car models. It's measured in lives changed. And how does it feel to be called the teacher who changed education? The Today Show host leaned forward, her perfect smile gleaming under the studio lights. "Honestly?" I adjusted my microphone. "I'm still just a teacher who wants to help kids learn." "But you're now worth millions," she pressed. "Surely that changes things." "The only thing that's changed is our ability to reach more students." I gestured to the screen behind us, showing clips of children using our software. "Look at their faces when they solve a problem. That's worth more than any bank account." After the interview, Fred met me in the green room. "Perfect, absolutely perfect. The governor's office called. They want you to speak at the Education Summit next week." My phone buzzed. "Mallory, you looked amazing on TV. Who knew my little sister could work a camera? P.S. Mum's crying." "Your family's adjusting?" Fred asked. Slowly, it's complicated. Back at school, a small crowd of reporters waited outside. Grace helped me sneak in through the side entrance. Celebrity teacher, she teased. Stop it. I headed to my classroom where Jamie was already waiting. Ms. Iris, I saw you on TV. He bounced excitedly. My mum recorded it. More students filtered in, each with their own version of I saw you on TV. The excitement was contagious, but I had other news to share. Class, I announced, remember how we've been testing our special software? Nods all around. Well, starting next month, every school in the state will be using it. And, I smiled, you all get to be peer mentors. Really? Jamie's eyes widened. We get to teach other kids? Really? Because you're the experts. The door opened, and to my surprise, Dad walked in. He stood awkwardly at the back of the classroom, watching. Okay, everyone, I said. Time to work on your projects. As the students settled into their tasks, Dad approached my desk. This is different from what I imagined, he said quietly. What did you imagine? Honestly, chaos, bored kids, not this. He gestured to the focused students, their faces lit by laptop screens. Dad, why are you here? He shifted uncomfortably. The board meeting this morning. They want to invest in educational technology. They asked if I knew anyone in the field. I raised an eyebrow. And I realised I didn't even know my own daughter was leading the industry. His voice cracked slightly. I'm sorry, Iris. Before I could respond, Jamie called out, Ms. Iris, can you help me with this coding problem? Go ahead, Dad said. I'll watch. I walked Jamie through debugging his code, explaining each step. When he finally got it working, his whole face lit up. See, I told Dad, that's why I teach. I see now. He cleared his throat. The board wants to meet with you, not as my daughter, as an industry expert. I'll think about it. My phone buzzed. Mallory again. Dad's at your school. Mum's freaking out. Family dinner tonight. Your sister? Dad asked. She's adjusting. I showed him the message. Dinner? Your place again? Actually, I smiled, I have somewhere else in mind. That evening, I led my family into the school cafeteria, where I'd arranged for a catered dinner. The walls were covered with student projects and success stories. The cafeteria? Mallory wrinkled her nose. Really? Wait for it, I said. One by one, my students and their parents began arriving. I'd invited them to share their experiences with the software, to show my family what real success looked like. Jamie ran up first. Ms. Iris, I showed my mum the space game. She wants to learn coding too. More families approached, sharing stories of improved grades, renewed interest in learning, kids teaching their siblings. This, I told my stunned family, is what wealth looks like to me. Mum wiped her eyes. I had no idea. None of us did, Mallory admitted. Malcolm actually put his phone away, engaging with a parent about the business applications of educational technology. For the board meeting, Dad said suddenly, you should bring this. Bring them here. Show them this. Already scheduled, I smiled. Fred's handling the details. Fred Wilkinson, Malcolm shook his head. Still can't believe you landed him as an investor. She landed him because she had something real, Dad said firmly. Something valuable. As the evening wound down, Mallory pulled me aside. I get it now, sis. Why you chose this. It's pretty amazing. Thanks, Mal. But, she grinned, you could still buy a better car. I laughed. Some things never change. Looking around at my students, my family, and the lives being transformed, I realized that some things do change, just not in the ways we expect, and sometimes that's even better. The foundation will focus on bringing technology to underserved schools, I explained to the board members gathered in my classroom, starting with 50 schools in low-income areas. Dad, sitting among his fellow board members, nodded approvingly. 2 months had passed since the software launch, and everything had changed except what mattered most. "And you're funding this personally?" one board member asked. "The majority, yes. I'm using most of my proceeds from the software sale." "Most?" Another member raised his eyebrows. "That's substantial." "Show them," Fred encouraged from the back of the room. I pulled up the foundation's budget on the smartboard. The number made several board members gasp. "That's your entire payout," Dad said quietly. "Not quite. I kept enough for a down payment on a house." I smiled. A modest one. Mallory, who'd insisted on attending, actually snorted. "Modest? Iris, you could buy a mansion in cash." "The money's better spent here," I gestured to my classroom. "Besides, I like modest." After the presentation, the board voted unanimously to partner with my foundation. As they filed out, Dad lingered behind. "You know," he said, "when I pushed you to join the company, I thought I was helping you succeed." He looked around the classroom. "I never imagined you'd end up teaching me about success instead." My phone buzzed, a text from Grace. "Emergency in the computer lab. Jamie's presentation crashed." "Duty calls," I told Dad. "Family dinner Sunday." "Wouldn't miss it." In the computer lab, Jamie was close to tears. "It won't work. The whole presentation is gone." "Let's take a look." I sat beside him, aware of the board members watching through the window. "Remember what we learned about backup files?" His face lit up. "The cloud save." Together, we recovered his work. As his presentation flickered back to life on the screen, I heard applause. The board members had come in to watch. "This is what we're investing in," Dad announced to his colleagues. "Not just software, transformation." Later that afternoon, Mallory stopped by my classroom again. "So," she said, perching on a student desk, "I've been thinking—" "Dangerous," I teased. "Seriously, Malcolm and we want to contribute to the foundation." I stared at her. "What?" "We've got more money than we know what to do with," she shrugged. "Maybe it's time we did something meaningful with it." Before I could respond, Mum burst in waving a magazine. "Have you seen this?" She thrust it at me. Forbes, my face on the cover. "The teacher who revolutionized education." "Mum, that came out last week." "I know, but I keep reading it. My daughter in Forbes." She paused. "Both my daughters, actually. Mallory told me about the foundation contribution." "We haven't decided anything yet," Mallory said quickly. "Yes, we have." Malcolm appeared in the doorway, phone actually nowhere in sight. "We're doing it. Already talked to our financial advisor." I sat at my desk, overwhelmed. "You don't have to." "We want to," Mallory interrupted. "You showed us what matters, Iris. Let us be part of it." Mum wiped her eyes. My girls changing the world together. "Speaking of changing things," Malcolm said, "we should discuss the expansion plans. The governor's office called. 3 more states want to implement the program." "And the Today Show wants you back," Mom added. "They're calling you America's teacher." "I'm still just a teacher," I protested. "No," came a voice from the door. Jamie stood there with his recovered presentation. "You're the best teacher." Mallory smiled. "Out of the mouths of babes." "Miss Iris," Jamie continued, "can I show my presentation to your family?" For the next 20 minutes, my family sat in student desks, watching Jamie explain how he'd created an educational game that taught fractions through pizza slicing. Mum actually took notes. "This is what you saw," she said afterward. "This potential all along." "It was always there," I replied. "Some people just needed help seeing it." "Like us," Mallory admitted. My phone buzzed again. Fred with more news about expansion plans, speaking engagements, investment opportunities. But for once, I let it wait. "Sunday dinner," I said to my family. "Bring ideas for the foundation, but this time I'm cooking." "In your modest kitchen?" Mallory teased. "In my classroom," I corrected, "where it all started." As they left, chattering about foundation plans and future projects, I looked around my classroom. The same desks, the same walls, the same dreams, but now with infinite possibilities. Jamie poked his head back in. "Miss Iris, thanks for helping with my presentation." "That's what teachers do," I smiled. "That's what changemakers do," he corrected, surprising me with his insight. And maybe he was right. Maybe being a teacher was always about being a changemaker. I just never expected the biggest change would be in my own family. "And now, to present our keynote speaker," the governor announced, "a teacher who transformed not just her classroom, but education itself." I stood backstage at the National Education Summit, adjusting my simple blazer. In the audience, I spotted my family, all of them. Dad had cleared his entire board schedule to be here. Mallory had postponed a trip to Paris. Even Malcolm was present, his phone nowhere in sight. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Iris." Before stepping out, I glanced at my phone's lock screen, a photo of Jamie demonstrating our software to a group of younger students. That morning, he'd given me a card. "To the teacher who showed us how to dream bigger." The applause was thunderous, but I barely heard it. Instead, I focused on the faces in the crowd, teachers, administrators, tech developers, all eager to learn how a simple classroom project had sparked an educational revolution. "Thank you," I began, "but I'm not here to talk about success or millions or headlines. I'm here to talk about Jamie." The audience quieted. Jamie is a student who thought he hated math, until one day he discovered he could build worlds with it, create games with it, teach others with it. I clicked to my first slide, Jamie's space multiplication game. This isn't just software, it's possibility, it's potential unleashed, and every child deserves that chance. In the front row, Mum wiped her eyes. Beside her, Mallory gripped Malcolm's hand. "The foundation my family and I created has already brought this program to hundreds of schools. But today, I'm announcing something bigger." I paused, meeting Dad's eyes. "Every penny of profit from our software will fund teacher training and technology access for underserved schools. Every single penny." Gasps rippled through the audience. Fred, sitting with the investors, smiled and nodded. Because success isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in moments of discovery, in light bulbs going on, in children realizing they're capable of amazing things. After the speech, backstage became a family reunion. Mum hugged me tight. "I was so wrong," she whispered, "about everything." "We all were," Mallory added, "but you never rubbed it in our faces. You just showed us a better way." Speaking of better ways, Malcolm stepped forward. "The investment group wants to double their contribution to the foundation." Dad cleared his throat. "And the board, we've voted to match it." I stared at them. That would fund every school in the country." "Exactly," Mallory grinned. "Go big or go home, right?" A commotion at the door interrupted us. Jamie burst in, followed by Grace trying to stop him. "Miss Iris, sorry, I know I'm not supposed to be backstage, but I had to show you." He thrust his tablet forward. "I made a new game. It teaches algebra through detective stories." The security guard moved to escort him out, but I waved him off. "Show us," I said. For the next few minutes, my family crowded around Jamie's tablet, watching as he demonstrated his creation. Mum asked intelligent questions, Dad took notes, Mallory and Malcolm offered marketing suggestions. "This is better than my first coding attempts," I admitted. "Because you taught me," Jamie beamed, "and now I can teach others." Grace finally caught up, out of breath. "Sorry, he was so excited." "Don't apologize," I said. "This is perfect." "It is," Dad agreed. "This is exactly what the foundation should be about. Not just providing technology, but nurturing innovation." "Speaking of nurturing," Mum cut in, "we're all having dinner at my house tonight. Jamie and Grace, you're invited too. No arguments." But first, Mallory said, champagne. I think we have something to celebrate. The foundation expansion? Malcolm asked. No, Mallory smiled, looking at me. Family, real success. Things we learned from our little sister, the teacher. Later that evening, gathered around Mom's dining table, the same table where they'd once mocked my career choice, I looked at my transformed family. Dad and Jamie discussed coding strategies. Mum and Grace exchanged teaching stories. Mallory and Malcolm debated foundation initiatives. You know what's funny? Mallory said quietly. I used to think I had everything. The clothes, the car, the lifestyle. But you had something better. What's that? Purpose. And now, thanks to you, we all do too. Jamie's voice rose above the dinner chatter. Ms. Iris, can I show everyone my new idea? It's about teaching science through virtual reality. Of course, I laughed. That's what we do here now. We listen, we learn, we grow. Together, Mum added, raising her glass, to the teacher who taught us all. Looking around the table, I realized this was true wealth, not the millions in my account or the headlines or the accolades. It was family transformed, purpose discovered, lives changed, and somewhere in my classroom tomorrow would bring another Jamie, another idea, another chance to show that success isn't about what you have, it's about what you give.